Hi everyone, it's Olivia from Pindot Press. As you may or may not have noticed, the studio looks a little bit different, and that's because I've been binge watching some tidying up shows and some interior decorating makeover shows, and I got really inspired and I decided, despite my already busy and hectic schedule, to do the same to the studio. So in the beginning, when this press first started a few years ago, all I really had here was this riso and a couple of folding tables that were left here by former roommates. And I had also a very generous friend, Shannon, whose art portfolio I will link in the description section below. You should check it out because she's an amazing designer and artist. So Shannon donated a couple of bookshelves as well to the studio. And also, when I was able to get a ride, I would ask friends to help me with picking up a couple of the metal shelving storage units that I also had here. But over time, as I started doing more print work and started to really get in the flow of things and have a system going, I realized that the storage systems, the table spaces, and the flow of the space itself was not really efficient for me. And so I decided that this would be a great time to not just do a large purge and tidying up of years of accumulated garbage, but also a way for me to redesign the space in such a way that it would really help me out a lot more with making the work more efficient and better and easier for me in general. So in renovating the studio, I had a few limitations. The first, of course, is the budget. And then the second is this place is a rental, so I can't do anything too crazy. And also I don't have any woodworking tools, so we had to get as much done as we could with what was available at Home Depot. And so there was a lot of just getting all the shelving cut at Home Depot and then gluing that together. So these should be the last of the shelves that we are building. These are the same height and dimensions as the other shelves, but just not as deep. And these are going to be holding not the drums, but mostly paper, and so they don't have to be as deep. All right, so I did a bunch of printing and they're all drying now, and for the next couple of hours I'm going to be clearing that whole area in preparation for moving one of these shelves to that area. Wish me luck. Enchanté. All right, so that corner is clear. So here's what all that garbage looks like. So I'm gonna work on one of these shelves now. So Marie says I have to make a pile of everything, so I'm just gonna make a huge pile of everything from these two shelves. I'm scared. This is not great. Let's just gain a little bit of appreciation and perspective for that pile that you can see right here. Yes. That pile. And I haven't even done that shelf yet, but I can't handle it, so I'll just start with this pile. So here's the giant pile. I'm gonna have to go through it now. All right, everyone, this is after about an hour and a half-ish of sorting through stuff. It's getting there. Let's go dump some stuff. Here's some stuff we're dumping. 4 IKEA bags worth of stuff for now. Hey everyone, so it's day 2 of this whole cleaning situation. So it still looks like garbage around here. However, I did make a huge dent on that massive pile that was there yesterday. So today I am hoping to make just as much progress. There's gonna be some shelf takedowns and some rearranging of furniture, but at the same time I still have some print work to do, so yeah, I gotta work on those prints and then keep cleaning. Alright everyone, this is what it looks like right now. It's a lot better than before. We've taken out the metal shelving that used to be there. I have to sort through all these boxes, and then that table is going away. Hi everyone, so it's another day of renovations. Today we are going to be working on this wall and then moving some shelves and some furniture around. And if we have time, we'll work on that wall. But in the meantime, I still have a bunch of clutter to get through over there. So when I first moved into this apartment, I basically just rented a room. So there were already other people living here. And so this is just what the wall already looked like when I moved in. So as you can see, it's quite dirty. There are scuff marks, and there's patches, and tape marks. And I always just saw this space as a transitory and sort of a utility space, so I never really made much effort to improve it. But now I feel like I really should make that effort so that the space can be more conducive to working and just have a nicer feel to it. I'm ready. I'm ready for some double painting action. Alright, so I'm going to use the remainder of the house paint to gesso over these 2 paintings that are exactly the same size, and we are going to make a diptych and we're going to mount it on the opposite wall. Now we're going to attach this curtain wire on the wall. It's a trick that I learned from famous interior decorating YouTuber Mr. Kate, and I also learned from Queer Eye's Bobby Burke that we should hang it a little bit higher to give the illusion of taller ceilings. So we're gonna get that done. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is to put a lot of this very thick pasty gesso, and the only reason I'm using this good gesso is because I ran out of the cheap stuff. Next is we're going to squeeze out some of this very old paint spray and mix it with a little bit of this tallow blue. We're just going to mix a little bit of this really old paint spray and a little bit of this blue. Wow, that tallow blue is freaking powerful. So we'll just add a little bit of this burnt umber. We'll try this naphthol red. I figure if we're going to be using naphthol blue, maybe the naphthol red will react to the naphthol blue properly.
That's okay. So let's kill this blue a little bit. Okay, that's looking kind of good. So that is gonna be the line. That's gonna be the line. Okay, so all we're gonna do is put a bunch of textures down. And it's just gonna be this light color that we're gonna spread across the top. So we're pretty much running low on paint sprays, so we're stuck with using ivory black, but to counter that, to make it not so flat, we're just gonna mix some of this blue in, and it needs to be darker than this, but not so dark that it doesn't have any character to it. So we're gonna be mixing a little bit of this brown and this red to give it a bit of a richer dark tone and variety, so that it's not just a flat black color, but we want it to be, like I said, visibly darker than the sky. And we're going to be using horizontal strokes to create the illusion of water. So let's see if this is a good enough tone. This looks a little dark, but we'll see. And we're only using the palette knife because it's easy to clean up and it gives us very expressive strokes. And we're just gonna make it very, very flat to give it a contrast to the sky, which is very textural, because this is kind of one of those very cloudy, blustery days. There might be a storm coming, or it's just a very nice textured sky. And the water there's wind in the water, but it's also very calm in a way. So we can make some ripples, but we're gonna try to keep the water flat so that we can look at the beautiful textured sky, and then when we come to the water, it's just nice and calm and peaceful. All right, so we're just painting a little bit of mountain on this horizon so that it doesn't look super flat, like it looks like there's another element in there that's giving you something to look at. Alright, so that's going to be the color for this wall. Ready?
So the first thing we needed to do was to get rid of the folding tables and build out these MDF shelving units. So the folding tables, as I mentioned, were just left to me by previous roommates, and they really didn't work for me because they didn't really have a good way of storing things under them. The folding tables had these metal angled brackets that made storing things under the folding tables really tricky and weird. And so we built out these MDF shelving units so that I can put individual cylinders into them. These shelving units were actually already pre-cut at Home Depot to about 16 inches high, and we just had to get them cut to the correct depth. So this way I can utilize this entire area as both storage and a tabletop space. So actually I don't really sit that much when I'm working in the studio. I'm always going to the computer, printing, putting in ink cylinders, putting in papers. So I don't actually need folding tables as tables for me to sit in front of. So these taller shelving units that double as tables are really, really great for me. And also they're the perfect height. And so one thing that I really needed to be able to do was to access ink cylinders individually. So if you're a school or an organization or a commercial printer that prints thousands and thousands of copies on the same color or the same ink cylinder, then you probably don't need this whole shelving situation. But I work with a lot of artists who use a lot of colors, who don't print thousands in quantities. And so I am switching out ink cylinders constantly. Sometimes I'll be switching out up to 10 ink cylinders in one evening or day of printing. So it was getting to be really inefficient to stack and unstack the ink cylinders, even though they do have these custom grooves built on the cases that would allow you to do so. And also I find that stacking and unstacking also uses up more space because you have to have a space to unstack things too. There's still a bit of space above the ink cylinders, and so what we did was I had these metal shelving brackets that came from another piece of furniture that was discarded, and I just kept these brackets, and we were able to drill holes into the MDF and create additional shelving units above the ink cylinders. And so what this allows me is to store projects individually into their own storage spaces, which helps with organization, especially when you're working in Riso. If I do one pass on a project, I need to put that aside and let it dry and work on another project and then come back to that later. So being able to store projects individually and having a space for them just to dry out is really helpful to me. So over here is the Riso, and this needs no introduction. Another thing that I really wanted to do was to be able to hang up art, but be able to interchange them easily. And so we got this curtain wire system from IKEA, and also we got the clips as well from IKEA. And I was able to hang up all of this art that I just had sitting around. And so I'm really excited to be changing them occasionally, and you'll see them change as we film more videos here. So here we have the finishing area of the studio. So previously we had two bookshelves that were standing there that were supposed to separate out the studio space from the rest of the living area in this apartment. However, what was happening was the bookshelves were blocking a lot of natural light that was supposed to come from the floor to ceiling windows that are on that side of the living space. And so we moved the bookshelves, and instead we hung up these sheer curtains that will also create a bit of that separation and privacy for whenever I have clients over or whenever I'm filming, but also still allow some of that natural light to come into that area of the living space. And of course, we can move the curtains out of the way when I'm not having guests over or when I'm not filming. So over here is the finishing area, as I mentioned earlier, and we decided to just consolidate all of the finishing equipment to this area, because whenever we are cutting papers, putting together booklets, it gets real messy, and we have a lot of paper offcuts falling to the ground, and keeping it to this area allows us to contain all of that mess into just this area and allows for a easier and more efficient cleanup. So we have the booklet maker here, we have our cutting tools here, and a bit of storage there. And we also have a little library here and the mailing area here. So prior to me having a dedicated mailing area, I was pulling color charts from the metal shelf over there. I was pulling envelopes from a different area of the studio. I was pulling paper samples from another area of the studio, and I wanted a space to just be able to grab everything I needed in one shelf. So this is where, whenever you order a color chart, I'll be pulling all the supplies from. And I've also got all my booklets of stamps. If you have ordered a color chart from me, you know I love putting stamps on those envelopes. You get different kinds of stamps for different kinds of postage rates. So I enjoy doing that. I go crazy with it. So that's all in here. And then I also have my paper samples, my color charts, and my envelopes all contained in this shelf. So hopefully going forward, it'll be a lot easier for me to put that together. And I actually have a fossil that one of my clients and friends, Greer Stothers, gave to me. I'm also going to link Greer's information down below. And this is actually super precious. And I'm not actually sure how old it is, but I'm hoping it's, thousands of years old, and it's just amazing. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Greer. So over here is an accent wall, and I wanted to try it for a while because I saw it done in a bunch of interior decorating tutorials, and I thought it would look really good. So yeah, I'm quite happy with it. So you saw the process where we were trying to create this look. And then over here are a couple of stacks of Riso printed pages. So I've actually asked the artist for permission to document the process for
this project, and it's going to be a perfect bound book. And I'm really looking forward to showing you the process for doing that in a future video, because perfect bound books, especially one that's 120 pages, isn't something that I usually do in the studio. And there are some special considerations around it, considering the studio is very small and we have very limited abilities for finishings. So there's a few more steps to take in creating a perfect bound book, so I'm really looking forward to showing you that process. Over here used to be a space where we would just put riso ink cylinders, but now that we have the shells, we were able to turn the space into something else. So in this space, you could play music and you can also do some oil painting, which I'm really excited to do, and hopefully I'll be able to show you some of that in future videos. So one of the other things that I picked up from interior decorating tutorials is the use of floating shelves, and so we finally figured out how to put them up. And so over here I'm able to display things that mean something to me personally. So here are some postcards from friends. So we have here a very special looking bowl, and then Spirited Away is one of my favorite movies of all time. And then that is a pop-up Gargoyles book that my friend Bina, whose art portfolio I'm going to link in the description section below, brought to me, I think all the way from France. And Bina knows that I love Gothic art and architecture, so this book is just amazing. And then over here is a beer bottle that was gifted to me by one of my favorite life drawing models, and a very famous life drawing model from the art school that I went to, Ed. And this beer bottle has Ralph Steadman's art on it. So if you like illustration, you already know who Ralph Steadman is. So that's it for the studio tour. I hope you enjoyed it, and I also hope you enjoyed watching the process. Please join me for future videos, especially as I show you how to finish this perfect binding project and also how to make a one-sheet zine. And if you enjoyed this content, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment in the comment section below, and I will see you again soon. So I just wanted to show you these copper plate etchings that I framed on top of the coat rack, and these are actually copper plate etchings that I had done for a class. And copper plate etching is actually a very old type of printing technology as well. So what you would do is you would put a layer of wax over the copper plate, and you would etch into the wax with a very sharp tool, like draw on it, or you could also create imprints using random objects. And then you actually submerge the copper plate into acid, and the acid eats away in the areas where you have scratched the wax off. And then afterwards you put ink over the copper plate and you wipe off all the excess ink, and then there's going to be ink that's sitting inside the grooves that have been eaten away by the wax. And then you would just put that through a press and run it through, and so that's what it looks like when it's been printed.